Hello and welcome to this discussion at The Wire. Uh, Yet another corporate scam has come to limelight, and this time the Punjab National Bank has alleged that a fraudulent transaction of around 11,000 crores has happened, and like any other corporate scam, it has happened through a series of credit exchanges, complex credit exchanges, which will be breaking down in this discussion. The person accused and person who's in the limelight is Nirav Modi and his uncle, and also the business partner Mehul Choksi, who have apparently fled the country right now, and we'll see how all said and done, this is a huge. It will have a huge fallout on India's banking sector. It has become a big political issue. The Congress has done a big press conference giving different documents related to the case, and many other political parties and the industry personnel have been talking about this issue, that because the scale of the scam is such. It's 11,000 crore, which is almost 1/3 of Punjab National Bank's net worth. So I have with me Anuj Srivas, who has been following this case very closely. Welcome, Anuj. And can you tell our readers? Can you kind of break down the whole case in front of our readers?
Correct.
Because it is complex.
That's true. So, Ajoy, this first came to light on January 25th. Okay, so the last week of January, when the Punjab National Bank went to the CBI and said that they had reported fraudulent transactions worth 280 crores.
Yeah.
Okay, and the man at the center of the scandal is Nirav Modi. He's a billionaire jeweler, and the FIR fingers three specific import jewelry companies, and all of these are linked to either Nirav Modi or, as you pointed out, Mehul Choksi, who is the chairman of Geetanjali Jewelers. Now, this is essentially the fraudulent transactions are based off letters of credit. So what has happened is that these three jewelry companies wanted to import diamonds. We're not sure from where yet, who are these suppliers, but they wanted to import it. So what importers naturally do, because these import transactions are handled in dollar currencies, they take a letter of credit from a domestic Indian bank, and that issuing bank here is Punjab National Bank. So certain employees of Punjab National Bank gave a letter of credit to Nirav Modi, who then went to an overseas branch of an Indian bank. In this case, these two Indian banks, the overseas branches of these two Indian banks are Allahabad Bank and Axis Bank. Okay, yes. So once they give them this letter of credit, what happens is that Punjab National Bank has an account in the overseas branch of these other two banks. It's called a Nostro account. So the Axis Bank and Allahabad Bank give 280 crores in this case to Punjab National Bank, which is then used to pay Mr. Nirav Modi's suppliers.
Okay, yes.
And what happens after that ideally is that because essentially Axis Bank and Allahabad Bank have loaned this money to Punjab National Bank, they cash in. So they come back with a letter of guarantee and say that, hey, Punjab National Bank, you have to pay us now. And the crux of the scam is now that on January 25th, the Punjab National Bank realized that it had no record, no official record of it ever having issued these letters of undertaking or letters of credit in the first place itself.
What you're trying to say is that now Allahabad Bank, the overseas branch of Allahabad Bank, and Axis Bank have requisitioned Punjab National Bank to pay back that money.
Correct. Yes.
The money that they released to Nirav Modi.
Correct. The money that was released to pay Nirav Modi's suppliers.
Okay.
That he was used to import. So Punjab National Bank has fingered around 10 employees. So Ajoy, it's quite startling. So these letters of undertaking. So on January 25th to 28th, they thought that the total amount of fraudulent transactions was only 280 crores. So yesterday they announced that it could be as high as up to $1.8 billion, which is 11,000 crores. And as you pointed out, it's 1/3 the market capitalization of Punjab National Bank.
Yes.
And the bank itself, over the last 2 days of the stock market, has lost 20% of its market cap. So they have said that, a handful of mid-level employees at a branch in Mumbai were able to do this without detection. So normally what happens is that when a bank issues a letter of credit to a businessman, they're supposed to take collateral. So in the case of any loan that you give, you have to give some amount of security. So allegedly, there appears to be nothing on the books that they've taken in the form of security while issuing this letter of credit.
So what started out as a 280 crore fraud has now blown up to almost 11,000. So are you saying that there were multiple such transactions?
Yeah. So I mean, it's spread across 3 different companies, and so the exact proportion of how much, how many letter of credits were issued, that is still, those details are yet to be made public. We don't know exactly what happens to do. But Punjab National Bank has indicated, so normally you take the letter of credit, you take the overseas loan and you pay your supplier. But Punjab National Bank has indicated in its FIR that this money was actually, the money that was raised for the import bills was not actually used to pay those suppliers.
So what is Punjab National Bank saying now? Has it taken any action against those employees?
So those,
were they actually empowered to give those letter of undertaking?
That's a very good question, Ajoy. So normally, I mean, if you look at the scale of this 11,000 crores, because it's 30% of the bank's total market cap, I mean, no one would ever issue a letter of credit here. I mean, it would have to be sanctioned at the highest level. But as they pointed out, and what the FIR says, is that these transactions were not recorded in the core banking solution. All banks have this CBS, which is monitored on a 24 hours, a real-time basis, and it's generally, if there are any high-value transactions, they're flagged immediately if they're recorded under the system. But these mid-level employees were able to do this just by using the SWIFT financial system. So that's what's used between 2 banks when you're trying to transfer money internationally. So essentially, I mean, this is how the fraud happened, because they didn't have to log it on their books, and they were able to operate this system without approval, is how these letters of credit were issued in the very first place.
So it has already Punjab. Now, what is Punjab National Bank's current status? What is it saying?
Yeah, so I mean, today morning, I mean, the developments that have come out today are, one, apparently Nirav Modi has fled the country, or he apparently, according to the CBI, Nirav Modi left on January 1st. Mehul Choksi and Nirav Modi's wife left on January 6th. Nirav Modi is supposed to be in Switzerland at the moment, but of course this is all based off unconfirmed news reports. We're not sure exactly where he is right now. At the press conference that the Punjab National Bank held today afternoon, they said that last week Nirav Modi did write them a letter and say that he has offered to repay a certain amount of this money. I think, again, these are all unconfirmed reports, but they say that anywhere between 5,000 to 6,000 crores he has offered to repay them. Clearly that's not enough. What else did I want to say? The ED has currently started raiding his business house and his land and so on and so forth. So there is a question of attaching those assets if need be. But the Punjab National Bank has said that they have requested him to come back to India in person and submit a written repayment plan, as and when it has to go.
Yeah, so but the matter has actually assumed political proportions now, because while there are reports that Mehul Choksi and Nirav Modi, they might have actually fled the country, but he was also seen in World Economic Forum at Davos and was seen in a photo with Prime Minister Modi. So what do you have to kind of say about that? Can you kind of break down the dateline?
Yeah, so I mean, so far there is one senior government official who has gone on record. This is surprisingly Rajiv Kumar, who is currently the vice chairman of the Niti Aayog, and he has stated that this case dates back to 2011.
Yes.
So that these letters of credit, at least the initial first few ones, were issued way back then, and it was only in the last week of Jan when Allahabad Bank and Axis Bank asked Punjab National Bank to pay up, is essentially when this scam came to light in the first place. So I mean, as the Congress has done, trying to decide who is to blame here is still up in the air. Clearly it's a failure of corporate and public governance at our public sector banks, and it is up to the Modi government, the finance ministry and the RBI to currently come to a solution about the crisis, because right now what is immediately happening is that there's a bit of a blame game. So at the moment, both banks on their balance sheets have listed this as a potential loss.
Loss.
Right. So,
what my kind of I was curious about that the first FIR, when was it lodged?
So this was the last week of January.
And when was the Davos conference?
This was January 23rd.
January 23rd. And you were also saying that Nirav Modi and Mehul Choksi were supposed to leave or had apparently left the country in the first week of January.
Yeah.
which means that in Davos conference, Nirav Modi was seen with Prime Minister when the case was like when they might have probably known that there's something like this which is going to happen if he has actually fled the country.
That's true. Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, so probably Jan 23rd, Jan 25th is when Punjab National Bank said it officially detected it. But surely you're right. There's only a couple of days timeline between it. I mean, I wouldn't put too much emphasis on it right now. Him being at Davos, clearly, obviously, if Nirav Modi does not come back, I mean, the CBI has asked him to, Punjab National Bank has asked him to. If he doesn't come back, then of course this is a line of questioning that should be revisited.
Yes.
Congress
did a press conference today where it has released some additional papers,
Yeah.
and out of which the most important paper is a complaint by a person called Hari Prasad, who had apparently written to the Prime Minister's office and PGO that something of this nature has happened in Punjab National Bank and it needs to be checked as early as July 2016. The complaint, the date of the complaint is that.
Yeah.
So, do you know anything about that?
I think those letters. I mean, we've just taken a look at it. The Congress has put it out, but it doesn't appear to be connected directly with this.
Yes.
So Nirav Modi has been, some of his companies and Gitanjali have been under the scanner, a few years earlier, but those are over slightly separate issues. And the letter and the complaint seem to deal with the NPAs that Gitanjali Jewelers has had. Of course, Gitanjali Jewelers and Mehul Choksi have denied, any sort of involvement.
Yeah. No, what the Congress is right now saying that it may not have direct connections with Nirav Modi, but because the Punjab National Bank has given that much of a letter of undertaking, a letter of credit to Nirav Modi, and why did Punjab National Bank, and it is trying to allege that why didn't the government regulate Punjab National Bank to see the past records of Gitanjali Gems, or Gitanjali Gems, the company promoted by Mehul Choksi, and it says that it has around rupees 10,000 crores as debt in different kinds of exchanges with banks.
Correct.
So it did not have a good record, and yet Punjab National Bank
so I think there's definitely there's a lot of questions to be asked about how corporate governance at public sector banks, and so I mean the biggest question is that now we are recapitalizing our banks. So, but has the standards in governance gone up over the last 2-3 years? It clearly has not. At least one report that has come out has said that partly the scam was discovered because Allahabad Bank asked for repayment, but also because Nirav Modi asked for another letter of undertaking, and his companies said that they had done this in the past, and then they actually realized we should not have given it in the past. So I think there's the fallout of this case is only just beginning. Definitely. Previous NPAs, as the Congress has pointed out, is a good place to start with when it comes to generally flagging
many other issues
concerns.
which need to be probed as the more facts that emerge.
Correct.
But right now, if in a case like this has happened in one particular case where one person is being accused to have fled the country after siphoning off around rupees to 11,000 crores from a complex series of exchanges between banks. And so, do you see it as a regulatory question also?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think in the press conference today, the MD and CEO he stated that he tried to. I mean, he was not very clear on who would have to assume liability for the 11,000 crores. But the RBI, again, there are some news reports over the last 1 hour that quotes anonymous sources saying the RBI has directed that Punjab National Bank absolutely has to take responsibility for this. That they will have to pay, and they may or may not have that money on them right now to immediately pay for that. Because the first thing that has to be taken care of is that they absolutely cannot be double provisioning. So Axis Bank and Allahabad Bank cannot listed a loss, and Punjab National Bank listed a loss. So one of them clearly has to take a stand. And what further complicates matters here is that Axis Bank has said that, we've already taken off that loan of our books that we gave to them. So essentially they've sold that loan to some other bank, and we don't know who that is at this point. So this whole trace, this series of events has still not fully been traced.
No, but what kind of like a very general query is that Punjab National Bank and banks like SBI, these are public sector banks where most of the Indians rely on for their savings and all that. So can we call this 11,000 crore as public money, which has been kind of siphoned off for corporate
Yeah, so
interests?
we don't know if it's been siphoned off yet. We have to be very careful with the
Using
language.
those words, yes.
I mean, so we don't know whether that money actually went towards the suppliers or it's been used for other purposes, as some people have alleged. But yes, of course, it's public money.
Public
This
money.
is
So
public
there's
sector
two
bank.
questions. One is that regulatory mechanism which the government of India, the finance ministry and the RBI has to do. And the other one is what provisions do these public sector banks have against or to prevent any kind of fraudulent transactions?
I mean, these employees should have absolutely never been able to have done this.
Yes.
I mean, the basic idea over the last 5 years, when it comes to tracing things like money laundering, routing of money to international tax havens. I mean, I'm not saying that's happening here, but over the last 5 years, I mean, the RBI and the finance ministry have supposedly built up, a greater online monitoring system through core banking solutions and so on and so forth, and it all appears to have been surpassed. In this instance, of course, we don't know to what extent this goes back to. If it's 2011, perhaps needs to be done. But it's clear that the checks and balances failed.
And who is accountable right now?
In this case, so I mean, the Punjab National Bank, of course.
And if finally, eventually, the money doesn't come, where who
they are on the hook. So at least, I mean, the RBI has not made an official statement. Some news reports have quoted anonymous sources saying that PNB will have to give it. And then, of course, I mean, as I pointed out, an earlier blame game has happened. So Punjab National Bank's officials are asking, we didn't issue those letters legitimately, and how did Allahabad Bank, abroad accept it when they were not legitimate letters? Why didn't they do their due diligence? And so it may turn out that some employees of Allahabad Bank and Axis Bank will have to come under the scanner and even be suspended in the days to come. So it's all a bit of a chaotic mess.
But eventually, I would just like to kind of ask: the opposition parties are blaming the government right now, and do you think there's any merit? They're kind of saying that even if there's a clear case of negligence on Modi government's part, and because there have been cases of NPAs, and the public sector banks have still not managed to kind of analyze how much risks they should take and how much they should not, and plus there are these fraudulent activities. So what is it a case of negligence by the government, or they can be directly blamed on this?
So I mean, I don't, it's very difficult to blame anybody in the government, at least the current government, immediately, because we still don't know, we don't have enough facts. But generally,
the only thing is that there was a complaint in 2016, and it's been almost 1 year or 2 years that the PMO did not act on the complaint.
Correct. But as I pointed out, I mean, we don't know if it's directly related to this at the moment. I mean, but what we can say is that, there's the finance ministry and the RBI and public sector banks today, and in specific the Punjab National Bank, have clearly not done a good enough job in looking at this. I mean, in past cases, when you see similar examples of letter of credits being used to siphon off money, clearly all of them have had political angles. So the public sector bank employee takes a call from a government servant or from a high-ranking politician who orders him to do this. But I just want to state, we don't know if that's happened in this case. So until that happens, we don't know if we can.
What could be the way forward? Can you briefly
So I mean, immediately right now, so the RBI has to.
How can the banking sector be fixed?
Well, I mean, clearly standards have to go up. This is an example of a credit guarantee being given without have actually been sanctioned, or no due diligence was done. There was no collateral or security collected against these loans, and these are all supposed to be basic banking principles. Okay, these are all things that should have been checked. So clearly, an internal audit by the RBI or the ED is necessary, I would say. I mean, at the press conference today, the CEO of Punjab National Bank said that we don't know, the RBI has not asked us to do forensic audit, but clearly that's necessary right now. So going forward, we'll have to see how it unravels. The first thing is for the RBI to make an official statement. The finance ministry and senior government officials have said that they are monitoring it. They don't think it's too big of an issue. It will be contained, but the RBI has to step forward and start deciding who has to step up. We'll say. So, I mean, please do make sure that you read and watch out for our future analysis.
So thank you. We'll end with this note. Clearly, there are more facts that will emerge, and clearly there's a need of an investigation that will unravel many more aspects of this case. Thank you so much. Keep watching The Wire.